So now let's look at the two-way data binding. The two-way data binding means there will be data flow between template and a component class at the same time, which means now we don't have to make an event like earlier we were pressing a button to send a data from input to a variable which was inside of a component and then printing that variable onto our HTML page using interpolation. So this can be shortened using this two-way data binding, and for doing a two-way data binding we use ng model. And note that this ng model is used within a square bracket, and then inside the square bracket we have these parentheses. So why we do it like this? Because this is how we get two-way binding within the square bracket. uh, then within the parentheses, this emphasize that uh, the the variable which you're using will be two-way binded. So let's see with this with some example. We'll try to create the same input field and try to print what we are giving as an input, but without using any button. So let's see how we can do that. We'll open our text editor. So this is where we are printing search. Now let's create another input and let's use two-way binding using a square bracket. Inside there's a parentheses and we say ng model, and this is equals to some variable which will save our data. So let's just say it is equals to query, and we'll close our input. And next in the next line we can use the or like in the next line we can use a paragraph tag, and inside this paragraph tag we can print this query variable using interpolation. Now let's go to our first component.ts file to actually make this query variable and define it here. So let's have a query variable of type any is equals to an empty string. So we'll save this, and when we go to our web page we see there's some error. And this error says, if you look at it, it's failed to compile. And why is it fails to compile? Because it cannot bind the ng model since it is not a known property of input. So it means right now the Angular does not know what this ng model means. Like earlier, we gave it ng class, ng style, it knew everything, but this ng model thing, it does not know. This is because by default, the ng model is not loaded or is not imported. So to import it, we need to go to app.modules, app.module.ts, and inside this, you will see a list in front of imports. So this is where we import all the modules which we will be using. So this ng model is in the forms module, and the forms module is not imported by default. So let's try to import it with the F capital. We use forms module. So when you type the forms module, you will get two options, one without the string after it, and one is just the forms module. So if you click on the other one with some string after the forms module, it will automatically import it from the location which you might not know, but this will automatically import it from the location wherever the forms module is. So try to use that, and let's save, and let's go back to our site. So it gets updated and it's working. We have this new input field. Let's try to write something, and at the same time it is getting printed on the next line. It's getting printed at same time, and at the same time it's getting deleted. This is because with the help of two-way binding, at an instant we write something inside this input that is binded to a variable which is being printed here, and it's as because of its binded in two-way, the data is continuously going and coming back to on the HTML page. At that's why it's we are seeing this thing editing continuously because of two-way binding. So this is how we did a two-way binding with the help of ng model.